let's go ahead and get started. I have a little activity for us to do. Okay, so here we are. Welcome to day 2. Hi, Carla. Okay. I'd like us, I told you guys something wrong when I was giving you the tour of our Google Classroom and our my website. I told you guys look for green. Green is AP Lit. You guys are blue. So that's my color code for English 3. Probably doesn't matter to you, but I felt like I should tell you you're blue. Okay, so let's start with smiles and frowns. That's a little activity we're going to do on Padlet. I have a link that I'm going to post in the chat, and you guys can, I'll show you my Padlet thing, and you guys can, just kind of tell me, something that makes you happy or something that's got you kind of down today, or it's just a check-in. Just let me know how you're doing. So here we go into the chat. Smiles and frowns. Okay, there you go. And here is what the Padlet looks like. Well, it should be closed. There we go. Okay, so me, I already posted. I'm tired. So much to do, so little time, and I am not getting much sleep. You guys feel me? So check in, throw some stuff up there. Let me see how you guys are doing. And also, just because I need to see how it works. On the bottom is this plus sign. If you, which you should have access. There we are. There's some friend. I'm good. And you don't have to put your name on this. It's anonymous. Just lets me get a sense of how our class is doing. No problems right now. Good. I hope you guys are adjusting to online learning. It's a little different than class learning, I think. Ooh. We go stressed on-ramps pre-cal. Yeah, yes, sir. On-ramps, that's a tough class. I teach on-ramps rhetoric, and my dear, I'm tired myself.
How do we get to that?
So let me put it in the chat one more time, and you can, here you go. If you click the link in the chat, it should take you to Padlet, and you should be able to write on it. 18 kills, Call of Duty. All right. My boyfriend would be so proud. He loves that game. I hurt my knee at practice. I am so sorry to hear that. Ice, I think. Ice and elevation is what helps. Not that I'm a doctor, but that's a bummer. That's just kind of a bummer for the whole day, right? No frowns. I'm good. All right. I'm happy to read all this stuff, guys. It helps me to get to know you. That's kind of our theme right now, is getting to know each other. All right. Okay, so you guys can feel free to still add to that. Oh, very groggy. Me too. Yeah, me too. Naps. They're a beautiful thing. All right, let me ask while you guys are still posting on that. Do y'all have any questions or comments or concerns from our last class? Anything I need to go over with you guys?
No.
Awesome. Okay, one thing.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah, uh-huh.
Well, it's not really a question, but like on the bonus one, like what was your dog's name? I already did it. I didn't really
remember that, right? My dog is Thor.
Oh, no.
If you watched the video on the website, I mentioned that my dog is Thor. I have a daughter at Southwest. Y'all probably know her or know of her. Lizzie Ritchie is my daughter, and a son at YMLA. And then I talked about our dog Thor. Then I'm reading a book called let's see if I can hold
White
it.
fragility.
It's called White Fragility. Yeah, it's about, I'm on this social justice crusade right now, me and half the country, right? And so it is about, it's about the, if you're white, kind of dealing with the privilege that you have been handed. So I'm reading that right now. Okay. All right, next. Okay, so here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about origins. I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with this word. You probably know that an origin is where something starts. And we're in American literature. And so we're going to start kind of at the beginning with where all stories start. You know, where do we come from? And then where do you as a person come from? So in the next few classes, we're actually going to study a Native American origin story about how the world and mankind was created. And then we're going to look at some other origin stories that talk about, you know, where people come from. And as we do that, you're going to do a little piece of writing, or actually you have some choice in how you present it. To me, that's going to let me know a little bit more about you, more than the form that you've filled out, the You Matter form, but it's going to tell me some significant things about you and kind of how you were formed. All right, so let's get started with that. We're going to start with Born a Crime. Has anybody read this book? Nope. Do you guys know who? Yes, you have, John?
No, I said no.
Okay. You guys know who this is? Maybe. His name is Trevor Noah, and he's the host of The Daily Show on Comedy Central now. He's from South Africa, and this is a book that he wrote about who he is and where he comes from. It's an autobiography, and it's told in like memoir style. It's a bunch of little stories about, you know, what makes him him. And it's called Born a Crime, because when he was born, it was illegal for different races to procreate. You know, if you were Black, you could be with Black people. If you were white, you could be with white people. And Trevor Noah's mom is Black and his father is white. And so when he was born, he was literally a crime that was illegal. So that's where his novel gets his name, and that's what he's talking about. So we're going to read a small section of the novel today, and I just want you guys to think about this experience he's had and how that kind of makes him him. Okay? All right, so then I just click on this picture and up should come a PDF.
Oh, I have another question.
Yeah.
So like you said, like whenever he was born, it was illegal. But, like he really doesn't look that old. Like,
yeah. Surprising, right? He's younger than I am. In Africa, in South Africa, that's a country. It's the southernmost country in the continent of Africa. They lived under what was called apartheid, which means separate, kind of separate but equal, but really not equal. And that didn't end until the 1980s. So they were forced to live separately, date separately, marry, mate, everything separately. And that ended with a gentleman named Nelson Mandela, who you may have heard of. And that ended in the 80s. So if you are interested in knowing more about that, you won't be sorry if you read this book. It's an excellent book, and he talks a lot about the policies, the apartheid policies in it. We're not going to cover that a lot in this class because we're studying American literature, but America has its own version of separate. Yeah. So, but I've got a couple copies of it. So when we are in person, I'll loan you a copy if you're interested. Okay, so up on the screen, I have the text. And so if somebody wants to read it, I'll let you. Otherwise, I shall read it. Anybody dying to have their voice heard today? Okay. It's called chameleon. And a chameleon, well, y'all tell me, what's a chameleon?
A reptile that blends into its surroundings.
Yes, ma'am. It's a reptile that blends in. It changes to adapt to its surroundings. So here we go. As a kid, I understood that people were different colors. But in my head, white and black and brown were like types of chocolate. Dad was like the white chocolate. Mom was the dark chocolate, and I was the milk chocolate. But we were all just chocolate. I didn't know any of it had anything to do with race. I didn't know what race was. My mother never referred to my dad as white or to me as mixed. So when the other kids in Soweto called me white, even though I was light brown, I just thought they had their colors mixed up, like they hadn't quite learned them properly. Ah, yes, my friend, you're confused aqua with turquoise. I see how you made that mistake. You're not the first. I soon learned the quickest way to bridge the race gap was through language. Soweto was a melting pot, families from different tribes and homelands. Most kids in the township spoke only their home language, but I learned several languages because I grew up in a house where there was no option but to learn them. My mom made sure that English was the first language I spoke. If you're Black in South Africa, speaking English is the one thing that can give you a leg up. English is the language of money. English comprehension is equated with intelligence. If you're looking for a job, English is the difference between getting the job or staying unemployed. If you're standing in the dock, English is the difference between getting off with a fine or going to prison. After English, Xhosa was what we spoke around the house. When my mother was angry, she'd fall back on her home language. And as a naughty child, I was well versed in Xhosa threats. They were the first phrases I picked up, mostly for my own safety. Phrases like, I'll try, right? Nidziza kubeta intrloko. I'll knock you upside the head. Or Sidinje Nidini Somtwana, you idiot of a child. It was very passionate language. Now, outside of that, my mother picked up different languages here and there. I scrolled down too far, I'm so sorry. She learned Zulu because it's similar to Xhosa. She spoke German because of my father. She spoke Afrikaans because it's useful to know the language of your oppressor. Sotho, she learned in the streets. Living with my mom, I saw how she used language to cross boundaries, handle situations, navigate the world. We were in a shop once, and the shopkeeper right in front of us turned to his security guard and said in Afrikaans, Belegdai swartes ninotu stilhul ites. Follow those blacks in case they steal something. My mother turned around and said in beautiful Afrikaans, Hokim vlog ginai dai swartes sodat I hulukan help kai warta hul sikni. Why don't you follow those blacks so you can help them find what they're looking for? Jammer, he said, apologizing out in Afrikaans. And then this was the funny thing. He didn't apologize for being racist. He merely apologized for aiming his racistness at us. I'm so sorry, he said. I thought you were like the other blacks. You know how they love to steal. I learned to use language like my mother did. I would simulcast, give you the program in your own tongue. And I'd get suspicious looks from people just walking down the street. Where are you from? They'd ask, and I'd reply in whatever language they addressed me in, using the same accent they used. There would be a brief moment of confusion, and then a suspicious look would disappear. Oh, okay. I thought you were a stranger, but we're all good then. It became a tool that served me my whole life. One day, as a young man was walking down the street, and a group of Zulu guys were walking behind me, closing in on me, and I could hear them talking to one another about how they were going to mug me. Asiambe la atu yom lungu. Uma nangafa mina nizak kermuka ningavuva kwaki. Let's get this white guy. You to his left, I'll come up behind him. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't run. So I just spun around real quick and said, I'm going to skip this line and just say it in English. Yo, guys, why don't we just mug someone together? I'm ready. Let's do it. They looked shocked for a moment, and then they started laughing. Oh, sorry, dude. We thought you were something else. We weren't trying to take anything from you. We were trying to steal from white people. Have a good day, man. They were ready to do me violent harm until they felt that we were part of the same tribe, and then we were cool. That and so many other smaller incidents in my life made me realize that language, even more than color, defines who you are to people. I became a chameleon. My color didn't change, but I could change the perception of my color. If you spoke to me in Zulu, I replied to you in Zulu. If you spoke to me in Tswana, I replied to you in Tswana. Maybe I didn't look like you, but if I spoke like you, I was like you. Okay. So, anybody have any questions about the reading? Okay. I know I butchered some of that language, but give me some grace, right? So, let me ask you guys some questions about the reading. Do you agree with him that language is important? Does it matter what language you speak or how you speak? Let me see. You can type this in the chat. You can unmute yourself, but tell me what you think. He's making an argument here about language, that it's important, that it helps define who you are. What do you think?
It doesn't necessarily, what's it called? Change who you are, but it changes your perception. So they just think instead of you are only knowledgeable in one category, you're actually well diverse.
Do you find that true in your own lives?
Yes.
What about the rest of you? Do you think language matters in how people speak to you or judge you?
I feel like language does matter because if you can understand people, you can know what they're saying, and you can protect yourself. But also, just because we don't speak the same language as you, it's kind of disrespectful because you getting mad that we don't speak the same language.
People can get really hung up on this, can't they? What do you think, Alden?
I was gonna say it doesn't really matter, but the world that we live in, we're just kind of like the way we're raised, and everyone is just anything that's different or anything that we're not, like we are, or I don't know how to explain it, but anything that it's different, we're just like taught to, dislike, to always like whatever you are, whatever you're doing, you're right and the other person's wrong, like that kind of stuff. It's just
Yeah.
the way that like the world sends the message to you. It's kind of how everyone. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just kind of how everyone thinks of it. But it doesn't really matter. But everyone just thinks it does. If that makes any sense.
I think what I hear you say is that we are, I don't know if scared is the right word, of things that are different than us, but we're very comfortable with what we are.
Yeah, we're taught to dislike things that are different than us. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
and when you think about it, it's bad, it's messed up, but that's just the world that we live in. You can't. That's just how it is.
And it's interesting because, what we're studying here is American literature this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And America wasn't always one thing. America is America because it's lots of different things. So it's interesting that this place that was built on differences values sameness. We speak English, we look this way, we do this thing, right? I don't know.
That's fun.
Okay. How did his experience with languages, how do you think that impacted him? How did that shape who he was? Yeah, Jade.
Well, as he mentioned in the story, he could have been mugged if he hadn't been prepared with that. So it not only stopped him from having more traumatic experiences, but it also helped him to kind of stay out of trouble and made it easier to not easier, but it made it not as difficult because people perceived him as the same as them instead of this random person.
Yeah. It definitely was a self-preservation tool. It protected him. It allowed him to be a chameleon, to blend in, right? Okay. Any other thoughts on Trevor Noah, his language? Okay, then let me take us into our activity, our next thing we're going to do. You guys are going to think about 3 things that are significant to you, and they're going to give me insight into who you are. And I'm going to start. I'm going to share with you guys. I've written a letter, and I'm going to read it to you guys, and you guys are going to share back with me. You can either write a letter, you can create a vision board, or you can record a video. But the focus is going to be 3 things that are important to you, and you're going to elaborate on those. Just like languages were important to Trevor Noah, they were a survival tool for him and a ticket into success for him, right? English was the language of money. English was the language of power. And knowing that got him a ticket to, you know, college, a career, and America itself. Okay, so I'm going to read this to you just so you have an idea of what it is I'm looking for. And then you guys have the rest of today and all the way up until Sunday to create something similar, okay? Now, before I read this, you guys should know that I'm a teacher. I'm 45. I have a lot of experience writing. So I don't want you to feel like what you write has to be just like mine. I'm going to use some metaphors and some writing techniques in mine just because that's how I write, okay? What I'm looking for is insight and honesty from you. That's it, okay? All right, so here we go. I shall read this to you. Okay, so, you know, I think it's a fair statement that we don't know each other very well. And I think that some of you are going to be really excited about this assignment and getting to know me. And, you know, I might even become one of your favorite teachers. And others of you are going to be like, I'm not into all this touchy-feely stuff, miss. I don't want to do this. You don't need to get to know me. You just need to be my teacher. That's fine too. I will totally respect your boundaries. Most of you guys are probably somewhere in between that. But I think it's important for you to know who you're working with this year. And if you aren't a touchy-feely person and just need me to kind of keep my distance, make that one of your things so I know that. So I'm not trying to pull something out of you that isn't there, okay? All right, here we go. Number 1, I really like people. I like to talk to people. I like to know their stories. I'm empathetic, which means I try to see the world from the perspective of others as much as such a thing as possible. I've always liked people. I've liked to talk. I like to ask questions. My report cards as a child were consistent. Talks too much in class, the teachers would write in the comments section. In another life, the one right before I started teaching, I was a newspaper reporter. I got paid to talk to people, ask a bunch of questions, and then write about it. It was perfect. I ask a lot of questions, not because I'm trying to get into your business, but because I'm genuinely curious about who you are and what you think. Knowing you is important to me. Once you're my student, I will always consider you my student. And that means you can reach out to me for help, even if you're hundreds of miles away at college, even if we haven't talked in a decade, even if you make a mistake. I understand that to be human means we make mistakes. I have made plenty, and I understand that we all need a little grace. I have a lot of grace to give. Grace should have been my middle name. It's actually Renee. Number 2, I am Hispanic. That probably surprises you. It surprised me. I didn't find that out that I was Hispanic until I was in high school. Here's how it happened. I was applying for college, and one of my parents, my mother, I think, said I should mark Hispanic on my application. It would help me during the admissions process, she said. And I looked up and said, but I'm not Hispanic. And she said, but you are. My father's mother was born in Nicaragua and immigrated to the United States when she was a child. She was adopted. She met and married my grandfather and had my father and my aunt. She assimilated so completely into American culture, into white American culture, that she lost her culture. Her house was overdecorated with antiques from early America and Europe. There wasn't a hint of Hispanic culture, no bright colors, no art, no food, nothing. It wasn't until the current social justice movement sweeping our country that I began to think about what all this meant. My grandmother saw little value in her heritage, so she erased it. She whitewashed it, if you will. That's a decision she made for herself, but it's a decision that continues to ripple through our family. That day in high school, I didn't mark the Hispanic box for the same reason I still struggle today. I'm Hispanic, and yet I'm not Hispanic. I feel like there's a whole part of myself, my heritage, that I don't know and that I can't claim. I've lived a life of white privilege. I haven't had the humiliation of discrimination. I've never been judged or called a name. But if I had the chance to mark that box, I think I might check it and claim my heritage. At least it's a step. Okay, number 3. I love the stars. I have a secret passion for astrophysics. No, really, I read books on this all the time. So I love the stars and I love the science of the heavens. But I think what I really love is the poetry of the stars and what they truly represent. Possibility. In space, I see the possibilities of what humanity can become, where we can go, what we can do. Imagine the things we will see and wonder at the sights that are just beyond my imagination. And when I look at the stars, countless in number and more numerous than the number of people on Earth or the number of people who have ever been on Earth, I realize that this is a wonder we all share together. The word astronaut might be my favorite word. Astro is the Greek word for star, and naut is the Greek word for sailor. When you combine them, they become star sailor. One of us who has left this planet and is sailing into new worlds. They will explore and have new experiences, and that speaks to my soul. When I struggle, I look to the stars and know with a certainty that this isn't it for me or for you or for humanity. We are sailors of our own ships, and we can chart a new course. That comforts me. Okay, so those are 3 things which will help you know me a little bit better. Now, I want you to write a letter or to create a vision board or to make a video that tell me 3 significant things about yourself. I shared with you, but you don't have to worry that I'm going to share yours with anybody else. You're just making this for me so I can get to know you and so you can practice or, delve into your origin. What makes you you, okay? If you go to our class page, let me show you that. You will see, here we go. If you go under classwork, oh, I bet I forgot to post it. Oh, darn it. Okay, well, I will post. It'll be right here under first week of school's activity, wherever it is, right here. It'll say 3 significant things. And it will have a place for you to submit. You can submit a Google slide, which will be your vision board. And I've posted an example for you guys on how to build one, or you can submit a document, or you can submit a video. Okay, does anybody have any questions? Nope. Okay, I put a copy of my 3 significant things there so you guys can take a look at that. Or not. I think you have an idea of what it is I'm looking for in the assignment. You don't have to write as much as I did. I just want some insight into what matters to you. Okay?